This is Against the Grain with Abby, the Liverpool doula. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Against the Grain with me, Abby, the Liverpool doula. So, today's episode is going to be all about vaping, the vile truth about vapes, especially in pregnancy. So, I've come onto this topic because I found out that the NHS actually recommends vapes to pregnant women. It's now openly running schemes where they will promote vapes to pregnant women as an alternative to cigarettes. Yes, you heard that right. We've gone from don't smoke in pregnancy to, oh, here's an e-cig, love. And it's actually being framed as harm reduction, but in reality, it's an absolute fucking travesty. So we are going to get into the science, the side effects, the addiction, and the absolute lack of long-term safety data. And we'll just get onto the disgusting reality of how we've all normalised sucking. Well, no one in my circles has, but we've normalised basically sucking on a plastic stick like a fucking dummy. So this is like to do with the pregnancy connection and why this matters more than anything. So the thing is, pregnancy is the single most critical period for protecting your baby from toxins. Like, it is when they are being made. This is why they say don't drink alcohol, because when they are literally developing in the womb, it affects how they are created. So whenever you inhale something, eat something, drink something, absorb something through your skin, your baby gets a dose. So when you smoke a cigarette, yes, you are giving your baby carbon monoxide and nicotine. If you didn't know, carbon monoxide literally fights for oxygen. So it will overtake your blood cells and oxygen will be left behind. It will fight the oxygen to get circulated around the body. That's bad. So when you vape, you're not just inhaling nicotine, you're inhaling unknown aerosols, heavy metals, flavouring, chemicals. Have any of these ever been tested for inhalation? And you're bypassing all of nature's filtration systems by shoving them basically straight into your lungs. So yeah, as I said, the reason why this came onto my radar is due to the NHS initiative where they've created schemes to get pregnant women to swap cigarettes for vapes as if it's somehow safer. It's fucking not. It's swapping one poison for another. It's not even been around long enough for us to know what the long-term fallout's going to be. Like, I don't know about you, but I know 80-year-old smokers. I know what they look like. I know what the health concerns are going to be. We have got no idea what an 80-year-old lifelong vapor is going to look like. Like, it's not been around long enough. So cigarettes versus vapes, like, don't be fooled. No one is saying here that cigarettes are safe. They are horrific. But pretending vaping is like better or harmless in pregnancy is absolutely insane. So just so for comparison, one disposable vape is around the same as smoking 26 cigarettes, and one refillable vape, so I'm assuming that means where you fill like the little cartridge up, is the equivalent of 133 cigarettes. So let's first, if anyone doesn't know, how a cigarette works. A cigarette is like the little paper sticks, shredded tobacco leaves mixed with additives, and I mean hundreds of additives, sugars, ammonia, chemicals that make the nicotine hit you harder. And when you light it, you're burning that plant matter at around 900 degrees. That smoke that you inhale contains nicotine, carbon monoxide, which replaces the oxygen in your blood, tar, which is like a sticky carcinogenic residue, and thousands of other chemicals, at least 70 known carcinogens. If you don't know what a carcinogen is, a carcinogen is something that's been proven to cause cancer. So you inhale a smoke, the smoke is carried into the lungs, nicotine crosses into your bloodstream from the lungs, and it hits your brain within about 10 seconds. So now how a vape works. The vape heats the liquid solution, the e-liquid as it's known. I don't even know why it's called e-liquid, like electric liquid, I don't know. But it heats it to about 200 and 250 degrees with a metal coil, which is made of nickel and chromium. That liquid contains obviously nicotine. You can get it in various strengths. Rings, never tested for inhalation. Propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, which makes the little pretty clouds that people like. And then obviously trace metals from the coil. So when that's heated, it becomes an aerosol, not a harmless steam. And this aerosol contains ultrafine particles that embed deep into your lungs and enter your bloodstream. And then heating also creates a new toxic compound such as formaldehyde and acrolein, which I don't really actually know what they are, but this is all scientific jargon. So and that's what you're basically breathing into your lungs. So disposable versus refillable. So the disposable ones are the pre-filled, sealed ones. You bin them when you're empty. They're usually the ones you see behind the counters at newsagents. By the way, isn't it mad how like newsagents have never been more crammed and it's all boxes of vapes. And I can tell you now that these vapes are probably coming in from China where they're not safety tested. They don't care. And they're probably like a few pence per item. And you're buying, I don't actually know how much it's costing anymore. So often the disposables have got a very high nicotine content, candy-like flavours, very poor quality control, more likely to overheat as well, releasing higher heavy metal levels as the coils do degrade. And then those refillable tank type ones, you add your own liquid, slightly more control over the nicotine levels because you are basically buying whatever liquid you want. The same toxic aerosol, the same coil metals, the same lung exposure. The bottom line is they both deliver nicotine and toxins into your lungs and bloodstream. And in pregnancy, that means straight to your baby. So here are 5 shocking facts about vaping. The FDA found that some vapes release hidden carcinogens like formaldehyde when overheated. None of this is ever listed on the label. By the way, formaldehyde is what they use to preserve dead bodies. Nice. 2,800 vape lung cases appeared, some fatal, mostly linked to the THC vapes, but legal products, as in the normal vapes you're smoking, probably from China, can cause the same injuries. The nicotine from the vapes actually crosses the placenta and concentrates in fetal brain tissue up to 15 times higher than the mother's blood. And many flavours actually contain diacetyl, which is the thing linked to popcorn lung, which is that permanent irreversible lung disease. So that's the thing about this vape. So from what I know, if you quit cigarettes, your body will start to heal. I don't know if anyone, I did actually smoke years ago. I smoke 5 a day. And when you stop smoking, you get this mad cough. Because I remember sometimes you'd have a break from ciggies and you'd start coughing stuff up and you'd have a cigarette and get back to smoking and it'd calm your cough down. So usually when someone stops smoking, their body will start repairing itself. It will start getting rid of mucus. It'll start coughing it up. It will repair itself. And I think I read on the NHS website ages ago, it's like after 1 day of not smoking, this happens. After 1 week, after 1 year. And I'm sure it's after a couple of years, if you were young enough, your body kind of went back to pre-smoking condition. Whereas this popcorn lung is permanent and irreversible. And I've seen people need lung transplants. So it's literally not even in the same bag as cigarettes. And then I think also people think that vaping is like the safer option to cigarettes. But did you know that teens who vape are 7 times more likely to take up smoking later? So it's not even like a preventative for cigarettes. So let's talk a little bit about the heavy metals and developing brains. So the vape coils that heat the liquids shed nickel, lead, cadmium, and chromium into the aerosol, which is what you breathe in. And then these neurotoxic chemicals actually cross into the placenta and enter fetal circulation. So in developing children, these aerosols can disrupt neuron growth. It can lower IQ, damage the dopamine pathways, and cause attention and behavior disorders. And even low level exposure in pregnancy can rewire a child's brain for life. Now, this is literally the dopamine trap, addiction by design. Nicotine hijacks that reward system. It gives fake dopamine high. It lowers your natural dopamine baseline and it forces you to need more and more and more to feel normal. And vaping, as we've heard before, how fast it hits the bloodstream, it delivers it faster and more frequently than cigarettes because you can puff on it constantly. And it's like years ago, I remember, I think I was 16 when they banned cigarette smoking inside. Tells you how old I am. And so when I was younger, we'd like go into town, we'd go out clubbing, and you could smoke in the club. Like it was, you just did. You come home with like cigarette burns in your clothes, you'd smell of ciggies, and then they banned it. And so now obviously everyone would huddle outside in the smoking area for the ciggy. Now people just vape in clubs, bars, restaurants. It's not really overly controlled because it doesn't have that nasty cigarette smell. So people are just puffing on it. Like I've seen girls getting their lashes done, puffing on a vape. Like, no. But anyway, this is the thing. It's like, it's not more socially acceptable, I suppose. It's less able to kind of, I don't know what's the word, because it smells a bit nicer and it's not that dirty cigarette smell and it doesn't make you cough as much. Even speaking about it makes me cough. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Addiction is not a disease. That once an addict, always an addict story is one of the most dangerous lies we've ever been sold. Addiction is a behavioural pattern in response to what is going on in the brain. Yes, it's reinforced by chemical changes, and it's not some incurable illness that randomly happens to you. And we need to stop this like thing of like we can still have compassion for people with addictions, but this is behavioral. Two people can have the same brain chemistry, the same trauma, the same history, the same level of, misfortune in their life. One will choose to vape or one will choose to stay hooked on a vape. The other chooses to either not start at all or they choose that they want a different path and they quit. The choice might be fucking hard, but it is a choice. And we need to stop giving people an identity around their addiction like it's permanent, uncontrollable part of who they are, because that belief is what keeps people stuck. And in pregnancy, the stakes are even fucking higher. Like, this isn't just about you. This is about your nervous system, the brain and body of your baby that is literally developing in real time. So if you don't cut it for you, cut it for them. So I don't know if any of you have heard of Sigmund Freud. He talks about oral fixation, weak society. Freud actually believed that smoking and similar habits were a sign of oral stage fixation, which basically means you never grew out of the baby stage of needing comfort through your mouth. Now, people aren't going to like this, but vapes are the ultimate adult dummy. So if you're not in the UK, you're in the US, wherever, a dummy in the UK is what we would call a pacifier. So basically something that babies suck on. So you see these grown ass, nothing makes me sicker than seeing these grown ass men walking along, clutching their vape, unable to take more than 10 steps without a little puff on the vape. Oh, I can't need my vape. So here is where it gets deeper. So the rise of vaping is just one symptom of like a wider cultural collapse in dopamine resilience. Our lives are saturated with cheap dopamine, the junk foods, the crappy, high sugar. Actually, then again, I'm just thinking they're not high sugar, are they? Low sugar, full of aspartame, or whatever it's called. Um, Energy drinks, TikTok, Insta, porn. We have literally lost the ability to self-soothe or find joy or calm without a chemical hit. And people think, I don't, this is, vaping is a chemical cigarette, but also, I mean, a chemical hit from your brain, like watching TikTok or scrolling on Instagram or watching porn gives your brain a chemical hit. So when adults are modeling this kind of dependence in front of children, especially with candy scented fucking vapes, it is normalizing a lifetime of weakness. It's basically showing children if you feel bored or stressed or sad, don't just sit with it. Grab something external to numb it. And that is how we're breeding a generation of kids, people, teenagers who can't handle discomfort. They crumble under pressure. They spend their lives chasing these little micro hits of happiness instead of building real emotional strength. And this is why, like, everyone's so fucking offended. Oh, then if that's offensive, fuck off. What, are you going to go and smoke your vape now and scroll through TikTok? Like, come on. And I know I said in this podcast, like, this is more of a ranty thing because I'm just absolutely disgusted that vapes are being recommended by, we call it the NHS healthcare. It's not, it's sick care. They haven't got a fucking clue. Oh, these are actually being pushed and normalised, and the government will say, oh, we'll ban the disposable ones. I don't see any difference. So if you are looking for a solution, if you are vaping or smoking and you are pregnant, it is time for some hard truths. This isn't about judgment. It's literally about the survival of you and your baby. Yeah, quitting is hard, but addiction isn't a disease. It's a behaviour. It's a coping mechanism, and it's your choice. But right now, it's your baby paying the price. Here's some ways how to break the cycle. Stop being so fucking selfish. That is the first step. The minute you realise that your child, your unborn baby, comes first, the next steps get easier. This isn't even like relevant for just pregnant women. This is anyone. Like, come on. If you have got cravings that bad, there are other things you can use. There's herbal alternatives like mullein, licorice root, Damiana, which can be smoked safely. Again, I'm not a big fan of inhaling anything into the lungs. I don't think we're meant to do that. It's even like using cannabis and mushrooms. It's supposed to be steeped in hot water and used as a tea. So, but they are better options to smoke if you feel like you need to smoke something. and it can reduce the psychological need for a cigarette without overly poisoning yourself. Obviously, this is not me going giving advice like you should smoke this. This is just an alternative. Obviously, chew gum, get your crunchy snacks. I used ice pops when I quit. Herbal teas, basically something for your mouth to be doing because of that oral fixation. Remember what Freud said. And go to therapy, like CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, hypnotherapy, or even trauma-informed counselling can help you unpack why you feel the need for that nicotine hit, for that dopamine hit. Like finding out what's been missing. They say addiction is the absence of dopamine. Find out why you are behaving the way you're behaving. And then also mindfulness practices, meditation, breath work, reducing that stress naturally without poisoning yourself. And then you can also find replacement rituals. So if you are struggling with withdrawal, when your cravings hit, make a different ritual, go out for a walk, do some yoga, do a HIIT workout, call someone, get someone who's going to be like your sponsor, and anything that gives you a dopamine hit without turning yours or your unborn baby's lungs into toxic wasteland. So cold water therapy, amazing for resetting your dopamine receptors. Swerve your phone. That is going to be a big one. Like, try and find natural dopamine, have fun, dance, put music on, do something. So when it comes to if you are vaping when you're pregnant, like your baby's life is at stake. Every vape, every cigarette, every moment of just one more is literally choosing your comfort over their safety. That is the brutal truth. Like, stop sugarcoating it. So, yes, solutions exist. Yes, natural alternatives can happen. Support exists, but nothing works unless you stop making excuses. You are pregnant. You have a baby inside you. Stop being so selfish. Like, vapes in pregnancy are not better than smoking. Like, the bottom line is they're just a different flavour of poison, unregulated, poorly understood, laced with heavy metals, addictive as hell, and normalising a culture of constant chemical dependence. You would not spoon feed your baby battery acid. So why are you breathing it in and sending it straight through to their brain? Here is the truth that no one is brave enough to say. If you are vaping in pregnancy, you're not just taking the edge off, you're outsourcing your willpower to a plastic stick, and you're telling your unborn child before they've even taken their first breath that their comfort and their safety and their brain health is worth less than your next hit of dopamine. We literally live in a culture that celebrates weakness, that tells us we are victims of our biology, that addiction is a disease that we can't control, that it's okay to put poison in your body even if it makes life a little bit easier to cope with. Life is fucking hard. Just choose your hard. Like, it's hard to quit, or it's going to be hard to look back when your baby's got issues, like, or you've got a low birth weight, risk of miscarriage, risk of premature labor. Like, choose your hard, because you're going to be so proud of yourself when you let this go. So every inhale is a choice. Every puff is a vote for the kind of parent you're going to be. And if you can't quit for you, quit for your kids. Your child is old enough to understand. You will never be able to look them in the eye and say, oh, I knew it could hurt you, but I kept doing it anyway. Like, when you stop, when you choose the hard thing, you're going to send your baby the most powerful message a parent can ever give, which will be, I will protect you, even from myself. I'm going to sacrifice my own comfort for you. That is love, and everything else is just an excuse. Thank you for listening to Against the Grain, where we question everything and reclaim our power. If this episode has triggered you, share it. If there's someone you know who vapes, I don't even think this is like all for pregnant women. This is for anyone who vapes, who wants to know the real truth about what the fuck is in those vapes. And this has been a very, very surface level discussion about what is in them. But they're literally so shit and so harmful. If this episode hit you hard, or there's someone you know who vapes, I wouldn't even say a pregnant woman, anyone who vapes, share it, send it to your friends and family, spread the word about the dangers of these weird little plastic sticks that everyone's got in their gobs. But anyway, thanks for listening to Against the Grain with me, Abby, the Liverpool doula, where we question everything and reclaim our power. Nothing in this podcast can be construed as professional advice, and it does not replace the guidance of a trained professional, unless they're recommending vapes. This conversation is here to spark curiosity and offer perspectives, not prescriptions. Always do your own research. See you next time.